Yeah, so like I said, I thought this movie was about a lot of stuff. So I thought it was about oppression. I thought it was about respect and respect given in a certain kind of way. I took it as people not learning lessons or maybe getting the wrong lessons and things. Like I said, I wouldn't necessarily say it was like necessarily race, but in a way, kinda in a way, kind of dealt with that in a way. Even though here it was kind of species, but with the treatment and stuff like that, it could be interchanged a little bit, I think. But after also thinking about it, another angle I thought that this might be about, which I thought was kind of interesting because the whole thing with Jupe, right? Okay, so I had a conversation with the boys about this movie. I had made a reference to something I saw. So there's a scene where, you know, the aliens are in his barn, right? In OJ's barn. He goes out there and it's like three aliens in the barn, which is another scene from the trailer that's out of context and like it was creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Creepy as hell. And like I said, which I think is funny, it's like I think that even though it sounds crazy, I think it's possible that he made that trailer first and then just unraveled the pieces from the trailer to put in the movie. Because that trailer is so tight and that trailer is so suggestive of all that stuff that everything in that trailer is out of context, but is very important to the actual movie as well. But is all out of context. From the woman with the messed up face that looks like a possible alien, to the fist bumping monkey that you think is an alien fist bumping the kid, to the aliens that's from the ship and the aliens that are in the hiding inside the barn, all that stuff. You even see the UFO flying after OJ. He's running, getting away on the horse. All that stuff was not what it was. All of it was true, and in the movie and actual things, but it was out of context and not what you thought it was. And I thought it was just crazy how he did that.
Out of context, or is it just because we just assumed? Because it's just images, right? And it just we make the assumption that okay, if you put a bunch of images together in a certain consecutive order, then that's the question. Is he trying to be deliberately deceptive, or did we let our lazy brain just fit in the pieces because it just was convenient to whatever we were seeing in front of us? But then why would we ever think that it's going to be like some alien creature versus an actual ship, right? We would never think of that there's nothing in the trailer that ever indicated that that's a possibility.
Okay, so when you tell impartial truths, is that considered a lie? Is it blatantly deceptive on purpose? When you negate information, when you know something is seemed to be viewed a certain kind of way?
It depends. And I'll say this. Okay, in real life, it's wrong. It's deceptive. It's clearly lying when you do that. But in this case, where you don't want people to necessarily know what the movie's about,
still deceptive.
It's still deceptive.
He gave you a trailer for a UFO movie and it wasn't a UFO. How about that?
That's yes. But those scenes were all there.
He gave you the UFO. He gave you the alien. He gave you a couple images of the alien.
Yeah.
He even gave you a picture of a spaceman in a silver suit and a shiny helmet that came from outer space. He gave you everything in a UFO movie but a UFO.
Okay. But
all purpose.
Yeah. But all those scenes were in the movie.
Yes, I know they were.
I've seen movies where the trailer will put fake scenes that were never used in a movie. He actually used these scenes in his movie. So you're right. It's deceptive, but is it really deceptive? Because we're the ones that jump to the conclusion when we watch the trailer.
It's deceptive on purpose, and I'm not saying it as a knock. I think it's very creative. Like I said, usually people can't do that without putting fake scenes in there or things like that. But all the stuff that he showed that trailer, he used, and it was just out of context, out of place. And like I said, it takes an artist to be able to do that. Like I said, that wasn't by accident. He meant all that stuff. Even when he negated some of the music, because he changed some of the music that was in the trailer from what the actual music was in the movie. Because even the music had stuff that kind of played into the whole concept of the movie. So even that, I think he did it on purpose. And I'm not saying it because I thought he was being deceptive to be messy, but I thought it was genius to be able to cut a trailer for a movie that people think they're going to go see. And we did see it. Like I said, we saw all the parts in it. I used this example that I thought was fitting. It's kind of like you watched like 80s cartoons like the Transformers and stuff, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so when Optimus Prime, is a semi truck and he transforms into a robot, right?
Yes.
All right, so you still see the windows and the windshield. Still see the tires. You still see all the parts of the vehicle, but it's not the vehicle.
No. What happened to the cab in the back? That disappeared. That gigantic semi.
Well, in the movie, it turned into a weapon station.
Okay.
But in the cartoons, yeah, it disappears. But what I'm saying is you're seeing all those pieces, but they're in different places. But they all part of the robot. It's still part of him when he transforms, but they're just in different places.
Yeah.
And they're both right. All the pieces are right on the truck, and all the pieces are all right when they're on the robot. But they're just in misleading places. So that's why when you see the robot, you wouldn't think it was a truck. And when you saw the truck, you wouldn't think it was a robot, even though it had the same pieces.
Yes. I'll even say that in terms of the misleading trailer, because if you notice with the way movies are now, there's an emphasis with, the whole thing with diversity. They want to add more diversity. So you notice there's a lot of emphasis on women being leading characters.
Yes,
and
a lot.
The sister, the trailer, it's so deceptive because as I said, when I saw that trailer, I thought the sister was running things. Like everything about the trailer, even the scene where, so she does the commercial in the trailer, and then they showed that scene when she's at home and she puts on the record and she starts dancing. Even that scene, the way that she does it makes me think, okay, this is the main character of the movie, and she's the head of this ranch. That's the whole thing I got. But obviously the context is different because in the movie she's not. The brother is the silent one that's heading he's the main character. And she's actually kind of like, she's important, but she's the one where the way she acts and all the things she does, you would think that she's going to get killed when you watch the movie. All the things she does it's contrary to the way she was portrayed in the trailer, where you would think, okay, this is the main character, she's going to be running things and she's going to be on top of all this stuff. But no, that her character was not like that. So that's another interesting thing where when you bring up the whole thing about the half-truths or deception that the trailer had done to the mass audience who watched it before the movie.
Yeah, and I think some of that is why some people probably feel a ways about the movie. And when I say being deceptive, I'm not saying in a messed up way. I think that art is deceptive in a way. I think that, like music and movies and stuff, is always something that somebody's trying to say that don't want to say all the real stuff. Metaphors is deceptive in a way. So they can be used for understanding, but they also can be used to cover up saying stuff that you don't want to say directly.
But I actually don't think that this is a negative on that.
I don't either.
Again, I didn't even think about this, but now that when you brought it up, the fact that you're able to make a trailer and everything in that trailer is true in the sense that they're all in the movie. But again, when you go to Optimus Prime, when he transforms into a robot, all the wheels and all the stuff is there, but it's actually not. It's like the context is in a different thing. Like when you actually see the movie itself, it's not what was the trailer, and that totally makes the movie even more fascinating, because I like that idea where you're not lying. The trailer, that all that stuff is in there. As the audience, you're the one that jumped. I didn't say that. You just happened to see a scene where it looked like an alien. You're the one that's putting the pieces together yourself. I didn't. Again, my question is it really lying?
No.
It's just images. You see an image of a thing. There's nothing in that trailer. There's no one in the trailer that actually says it's alien. There's nothing verbally said. It's just an image that you see, and then we're the ones that are putting the pieces together because we so much want to be able to piece together the whole story of a movie just from a trailer. So we think that we're smarter than everybody else. Oh, we figured it out. And when we go to the movie, we can just predict everything because the trailer pretty much said everything that we needed to see. But that's not the case.
Because we kind of use our own knowledge against us in a way. And like I said, I think things could be deceptive without malice. I think like even a birthday gift wrapped up, that's deceptive in a way because you don't really know what's in there. It could be something good, it could be something bad, it could be something you want, something you don't want. But it's to cover the truth. But you know it's a gift. You just don't know what's in that box.
Yes.
And so that's the way things could be deceptive or unclear, but it could be a good thing. And that's how I felt about the movie. I thought, wow. But it took me, like I said, with the way my mind goes, I was constantly watching and trying to fight against what I thought versus me just going in there and just like, oh, la-di-da, let's see what's going on. But it was just like, so it's not an alien movie? So first it's not an alien? And what's this monkey in here for? Huh? It was just like so much stuff. On top of what I thought I was going in there for was just a lot for me to process. And even though I was catching a lot of stuff, I was taking it all in. But I tell you, I got more of that movie once I left and drove home than I did sitting in it, because I was just taking in. You know, when we see movies together and stuff, you know how I'd be, you know, we kind of talk and stuff. But I'm always just constantly just, okay. I'm just trying to like, okay, grab as much as I can. I'm looking at that. That don't make sense. Okay, look at that. So I'm constantly just grabbing. Like, I don't have time to eat it because it's coming fast. I can't eat it all. So I'm just stuffing stuff in my pockets. Okay, I'll get to it later. And so later on, I was thinking about stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, was that? Wait a minute, was this? What? You know, so I think I spent more time processing after the fact.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I think the movie was brilliant. I think a problem he's gonna have is the fact that expectations. I think that some of this stuff is very heady and very slick, and it's not just given as seen. And I think it could be enjoyed on many levels. If you just went and saw a movie about a monster, like, you know, it could have been like Tremors or whatever. You know, some monster out in the middle of nowhere and you're trying to stop it. It could be a fun movie like that. Or if you wanted to be a scary alien movie, it could be that. If you wanted to be a UFO movie, but just a different UFO, it's still unidentified flying object regardless, but it's not technical. And that's what we're so used to seeing, stuff being technical like that, not organic. So it could be, it's like five different movies in one movie. So if you're just willing to accept one or five, you'll be fine. But if it's like not the one you wanted, then I can understand people feeling like, oh. But I thought it was five different movies, and five different people could have went in there and came out with different things and been happy with it. Or if somebody was dead set on one thing, just being straight up this, like, I just wanted that monster. I want that bloody fist bump. I want that monster attached to that fist. Yes, you're gonna be pissed. If you're gonna be like, hey, I saw that flying saucer chasing after OJ and a horse, I wanted to go inside that ship and look at the technology, you're gonna be pissed. You know what I mean? So if you're looking for that stuff that made you think that was gonna be in there, yes, you'd be kind of like, well, it's not what I thought, you know. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. And again, that when you put it from that perspective, I can see why for some people the idea of a trailer being deceptive could be seen as a bad thing and a negative thing for some people. And that's a question that I want to bring up is, are filmmakers, you know, obviously you have to promote the movie, so that's why you have a trailer. But are filmmakers, like, what is their obligation? Like, Peele is not obligated to give us a trailer that gives away his movie. You know, why does he have to tell us? Aside from just garnering interest for people to want to watch the movie, outside of that, why not just, like, the way he did the trailer is, like, if you think about it, that's a masterpiece thing to do, because like we said, all the scenes are in there, but just the context is totally different. So when you actually see the movie, so why is it necessarily wrong? I get it. Like, you expected from seeing the trailer that it would be a certain way, but then we've been trained so long to think that, you know, that whatever we see in the trailer will pretty much fulfill whatever our assumptions are for most movies. So, but what is the written rule? Do they have? Filmmakers shouldn't be obligated to tell more than they want to tell, because that's like the secret sauce to a recipe. You don't want people to know the secret sauce. You know, you want them to enjoy the food, but you don't want to give them too much.
Yeah, I agree as an artist and a person who just likes movies. But as far as like a movie studio, they want to have the trailer that's going to get people to come in. They want something that's going to give people an idea, a sample portion of what they're going to get. You know, they're worried about the happy customer. Like, me being an artist, expressing myself had nothing to do with the studio who fronted the money, wanting their money back. They have a whole different concern. They have a whole different agenda. That's why a lot of times the packaging don't match what's inside. Even with like food. when they have like the fake burgers and stuff for the commercials. That's not what that burger look like when you go buy it in a restaurant. They have like raw meat and they put jelly on it to look like it's glistening, and they have fake ketchup and all this other kind of stuff. And that's not what the actual burger is, but they got to show you the trailer and the image that's going to make your mouth water and go in there. Even though when you get that actual food, it'll kill you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just I'm glad that we're talking about this movie, because, like I said, prior to us talking about this, I was disappointed. But now that we talked about this movie and also brought up this trailer, the idea of this trailer being deceptive makes me like this movie even more. But then now when I think about it, why am I okay with this, but I'm mad about Doctor Strange's trailer? Right? What is it about this movie that I'm saying that it's okay for Nope to be deceptive with the trailer, but with Doctor Strange, I was actually pissed off that the trailer was deceptive as well, because they both deceive. But it seems like Doctor Strange was more like intentional, like they really were more intentional about, or maybe you can correct me, but does it seem like the Doctor Strange trailer was more of an intentional maliciousness of deception versus the Nope trailer of deception?
I think that they knew that Doctor Strange was a mess, but they still had to sell it. I think Jordan Peele and the folks that was behind him and believed in what he was doing thought he had something cool, and they wanted for it to be cool for everybody. So they'd be happy for when they did open it up, they would probably still be happy with it. But it's almost kind of like let's go back to the gift. You have a bad gift, so you try to do extra nice wrapping to make up for it, because it's a messed up gift inside. And then sometimes you have a great gift and you just want a wrapping that's going to complement the greatness of the gift. They both look great on the outside, but one's a turd in the middle of the box and the other one's a great gift. You're still trying to present it the best way you can, but for different reasons. So one is trying to cover and protect to match the love and the thought that was put on in the inside, and the other one is trying to cover up and make up for the bad gift that probably the person's not going to like.
So the bad gift is the Doctor Strange movie.
I think they knew they had a mess of a movie. They still had to sell it. They still had to have people come in.
Okay, so here's a question for you. If the trailer for Nope actually implied that it wasn't a UFO, but that it was a creature, they could have shown one quick scene where during the final fight where it's above, where the sky creature is just literally above OJ, and then where you see the what looks like a mouth or whatever, a quick scene of that in the trailer where people will automatically pick up, okay, this is about a creature. If the trailer for Nope had instead implied that it was a creature, do you think this movie would have, I mean, people would have still watched it, but do you think it would have been as popular before meaning people would have like rushed in anticipation in the same way as the original trailer where it was like a UFO with aliens? They could have easily had, like, in a trailer, just a few quick scenes, even the scene where the people were like inside the gut, just a quick thing of that, and then just to imply that and then when the sister gets sucked up, things that imply, that already show that what they're talking about is the actual thing in the sky, or what's thought to be the saucer in the sky, and then instead showing it to be where people realize, oh wait, this is not just like some kind of a creature in the sky, this is a UFO in the sky.
It might have made a difference, but I think that if it was presented that way where you knew it was a monster, I think the crowd that would go for a monster or a kaiju movie would be different than the people who would go for a sci-fi one. And I think this way he got both.
That's true. Because the original implication of the trailer would have drawn the most audience, because it would have like both the
covered everything.
People, the monster people, and would have still gone to the theater for,
and the sci-fi people.
Would have still gone to the thing. But you're right. If it was a creature thing, it might have narrowed the crowd a little bit more, because people wanted, what is that, a sky creature? I don't want to see this. What is this? Like, you know.
Or they might have just been curious and wanted to see it, but I'm saying it might not be. I like all the stuff, but I know there's some sci-fi heads, and I also know some monster kaiju heads. And this way you got both, to me.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'll say that without that chimp scene, I think that chimp scene really like helps this movie a lot. It really does, because if you take out that chimp scene, I don't know if this movie would be the same. I mean, it would be decent, but man, that chimp scene really carried the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I think that in a way it was a buffer for the movie without giving you the movie. Because once you kind of got into what that creature was, what that thing was, what that UFO was, it was no going back after that. So I think it needed something in between to kind of give you some distance, also give you the lesson as far as, you know, some of the rules for the situation that's going to come up again later on without it impeding. Because if it would just been on the story about, you know, what would they have done? You know, dad's gone, we're going to lose the farm, they're going to be sitting around. It's almost like if that movie was like a short story. But if you filmed it, it'd be too short. But you need to stretch it out. So what's a tie-in that we could give where we could get to the good part later without giving it away too soon? Okay, you do something that kind of gives you the same lesson, give you some more information or something like that. Because if we'd have spent more time with that family, that movie would have started and been over real quick. Because what it would have been, them on movie sets, different movie sets throughout the years, and more about the dad, and he's hanging out with the kids and all this. You know, it would have been a lot of downtime. It would have been like Signs.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
or I mean, or it could have gone the way where it has other characters in it, and the other characters end up being like prior to the main characters being introduced, have the other characters who are going to be the eventual victim. You know, like in the typical horror movie that's going after people. That's where you see the side stories of before the main characters are put in there. That, you know, after we talked about it now, I'm seeing this movie in a different light now. I'm actually liking it more. But, you know, like I said before we talked, I was kind of hoping it would be more like for the tension. Again, going back to what I was saying, that the gap of time between when his father is killed to the present time. I know you mentioned the whole thing with the news and talking about missing people, but apparently I wasn't paying attention very well to that part. But I just felt like they didn't emphasize enough of that people missing to add to the scariness of the situation with this whatever this mysterious thing was.
I think that if they would have did more, it would have kind of gave it away. Because really, if it was a thing where you had people looking for people and a whole bunch of signs and stuff everywhere, then that mean there would be cops everywhere. That'd mean the government everywhere. That'd mean like they have to do something. It can't be so loud where somebody's not doing something. And so they had to be the one to kind of try to capitalize on it by getting the footage of it so they could do something with it. Like I said, if it was something blatantly obvious, then everybody would be there then. You know how it is when somebody hears something, everybody's on it.
Yeah, that's true.
And so to keep it small, like I said, I think it was minimum, because if it was too much of a thing, then who would not go there? It wouldn't have been just that one TMZ guy. It would be everybody. Who wouldn't be there? Because you even notice when Jupe had his, he didn't say what it was, but he has this, you know, presentation that he has this creature that's going to come down and stuff. Even with that, and he advertised his big show. His wife was talking to, I guess they had like a reality show they was going to work on, and talking about my husband got a new show that he's putting together and all that kind of stuff. Even with them preparing for all that kind of stuff, you saw that even when he had his first showing of the situation, it wasn't even a lot of people there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that goes to show at what level it was at. Like, it would have been a bigger after that, because you saw at the end when everybody was trying to come to that town and see what was going on, because they saw what was going on in the sky. You saw how many people and police and stuff started showing up then. Because we didn't see that kind of response to anything from the cops throughout that whole movie.
Yeah, that's true.
That wasn't until the end. So was there anything else about it that hit you a certain kind of way?
I don't want to keep like beating the chimpanzee to death. Really, I hope they won't. They probably won't. But I really hope that they do like a separate movie about Jupe and that incident, and the movie would lead up to prior to him, obviously, the event and getting killed. But just about that, it was just so well done. It fits the movie, but it's a weird fit. It's the last thing you expect to be in this movie. And with that in mind, this movie is even can we argue then that this movie is better than Get Out?
I think it's a different movie. Like, I like the movie Us better after thinking about it, and we can have a conversation about it, but I think that almost like with this movie, I was expecting something from Us that it wasn't. Get Out was so thorough about crazy stuff, but still led us through it.
Yes, Get Out kind of like spoon fed us, though. That's the thing. As different and unique as the story of Get Out, it's very like, even the trailers, it kind of like, there's nothing deceptive about
I know it looked crazy with the sunken place and all that. I didn't know how that stuff tied together. I was surprised. But I will say, as crazy as that movie was as well, it was a straight line in a way. Even though, even if we didn't get it exactly, it all like, okay, yeah, that probably could work. Yeah, that kind of, the uncomfortableness of, you know, a relationship, and there's an interracial relationship, and it's meeting the parents, and you got everybody acting funny, and they acting funny because I'm black and I look different, and why are these people? So it had aspects of stuff that was social awkwardness that everybody could relate to. We just didn't know how far that went. I didn't know he was actually being put up for auction. And you would think like, okay, if he is on an auction block, it would be for like slavery, not that they would like, you know, take his body. So I didn't expect all that kind of stuff, but he took a weird situation and made it worse. He made like somebody's worst nightmare another level. And that's why that could have just been meeting the parents, awkward situation movie into some other craziness on another level. So it would have been fine even if it was like meeting the weird parents and the crazy brother.
I mean, that's true. It was definitely like a surprise and unexpected, but I still felt that with Get Out, as crazy as it ended up being, everything that led up to that point, like for me, I was not surprised. I was surprised in the sense of what it ended up being, but I wasn't surprised in the context of everything up to that point. I knew that there's going to be something that's just crazy. And so it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. When it finally did reveal itself to me on Get Out, as crazy as it was, I was already preparing for whatever the craziness was going to be, you know, meaning I didn't know what it was going to be, but it wasn't out of the realm of, versus like Nope, right? The surprise in Get Out versus the surprise in Nope. With Get Out, for me, it's still, as crazy it is, it's still in line with what we are being led up to. But with Nope, it was so like a simple thing as like a sky creature just is like the last thing I would have ever thought. I would never have thought that that's like, but with the Get Out, as crazy as that thing was, I wasn't surprised because I knew it was going to be something with white people doing something that's over the top, because we were already being fed the weirdness of her parents and the whole town before the final reveal was.
Okay, one, that was Jordan Peele's first movie, so I had nothing to necessarily think where he would be going with a movie like that, besides it just being awkward. A guy meeting his white girlfriend's family, and then his buddies telling him, hey man, don't go over there, you know, those people. And so I wouldn't have thought the whole thing about the grandma and the grandfather, what their family actually be doing, that whole thing with the folks asking about, are you good at golf and stuff like that, like, I didn't see all that coming. And for that reason is why I think it hit me as crazy as it did. And then with Us, I know he does that kind of stuff now, and so I'm looking at it differently, more so than I probably should be. And then Nope, I'm looking at it differently because I already know what happened in the past with Get Out and Us. And so it's like I didn't know to put my guards up on that first movie in that way, because I had never witnessed his work before in that way to know. Like I said, I thought it was going to be a thing where a black guy meets his mom and she maybe hypnotize him or try to trap him, make him their slave or something like that. But to think that all that stuff that was going on with them at that level, and the way how it was kind of slick the way they did it, like when they show the guy say he recognized, even in the trailer, I recognize this dude, he's acting funny. I thought maybe like, you know, what, maybe Stepford wise, maybe he's a robot, maybe he was brainwashed. But it's brainwashed. But it's still in the context, whatever the end result was. I mean, yes, everything was a surprise. Like, I'll say I was surprised in the sense that I didn't know
what to expect. But what I'm saying is that with Get Out, when I say spoon fed, I'm not saying like literally
Yeah, I know.
it's gonna happen. But what I'm saying is that we're already being set up to know that something jackass crazy is happening and the white people are involved. We know that it's going to be, even if it's going to be hypnotized robot, whatever it's going to be, it's still, we know that who the bad guy is, the white people in that town. We already know that. It's just what the level is going to be. Is it going to be up a certain notch? Is it going to be to a certain level? It feels more random with Nope. It's like literally like the whole thing when I bring up with the bio, like a Animal Kingdom type of thing. Just there's no rhyme or reason. It just happens this creature goes to this place and starts hunting and killing. It's no premeditation thing where it's a random, like the mantis going onto the camera. It's a random concurrence of events that the characters happen to be stuck in. But Get Out is like that was all planned.
I disagree. All right, I thought it was random in the movie that the first black guy they showed, he's looking for this house, can't find a house, and his car drives up and he gets abducted. I thought that was random. I thought it was random when him and his girlfriend was going to go see their parents, he got pulled over by a cop. And I thought it was interesting the way his girlfriend dealt with the cop about like, don't profile my boyfriend. He's not driving. Why you want his ID? I thought that was random. Not knowing that she didn't want his ID to be seen. So the cop will have a recognition of coming across him when he gets reported as missing later on. I thought it was random that the woman, the maid, the black maid is acting kind of funny, has a disdain for him for some reason and keeps unplugging his phone so he can't make phone calls. I didn't know what that maid really was. I thought it was weird that black guy was talking like using weird terms. And she's a fine lady you got there. And I'm thinking like, so that guy's a sellout? Or is something, why is he acting? I thought that was random. Him running in the dead of night like a dart in front of the guy running towards him. I thought it was random that he's running. To find out later, he ran against Jesse Owens back in the day and never got over it. So now he just, with his new legs, he runs all the time. So I thought it was a lot of random crazy stuff going on in that movie that was like, where is this going? Why is this stuff happening? What is this? It's a lot of random stuff. Like when he hit that deer thing came up later on. So yeah, no.
I guess I just saw that town Get Out where it's literally like the title Nope for that Nope movie. It's the joke, the untold joke where, and I've heard it where the jokes where they say about, black people, like they would never act the way white people would in horror movies. Right.
Uh-huh.
I'm assuming that's the joke, the whole Nope where
nope, I ain't doing that. Nope.
Yeah, as soon as black people see, the joke is as soon as in a horror movie, as soon as black people see danger, they're not gonna be, let's go explore the house. And I thought that's what the inside joke for the title was. Yeah. But it actually doesn't really fit. If you think about it, it actually doesn't fit that movie in that context. Nope would actually fit as a title for Get Out, if you think about it, because everything in that because what I'm saying is, okay, if this makes sense. When I'm saying that the Get Out is spoon-fed versus Nope, what I'm saying is the Get Out always for me it feels like no matter what, like I said, going back to what I'm saying, no matter what the crazy answers are or what's going on in that town, it's still within the package of like, horror movie where the house is haunted. Don't go in the house. Okay? But people go in the house, white people go in the house. Crazy stuff happens in the house. I told you, why did you go in the house? The house is haunted. Why did you do that? Mm-hmm. And the same thing with Get Out. Obviously, for the purpose of telling the story, he has to go into the town. But we all know from the trailers and up to the point before we actually watch the movie that there's something about that town, just like a haunted house. So no matter what craziness answers, it's like when you go into a haunted house and you see like the twin daughters that are crazy, like in Shining. Mm-hmm. That's crazy, but it's to be expected because you're going into the haunted house, just like you're going to Get Out. And that's what I mean when I'm saying spoon fed versus the Nope, where the Nope feels more random because the creature settled itself and it happened to just pick that place, versus this town was being built to be the way it is. Like it was over time. It was already, I'm saying premeditated. Like the white people in this town, they were already planning all this stuff, and it's crazy as all this stuff. They were building the haunted house and Get Out, but in Nope, it just happened that the haunted house just happened to have legs and just happened to walk into your town one day and settle itself in the town.
Okay, I think they're similar, but I hear what you're saying about the randomness, but the randomness would have been the fact that he was picked as her next prey and Get Out. You saw that she picked several different people from the pictures, that she was, even a woman and some guys and different people. So the randomness would have been in who she selected. But yes, the culture of their family and the stuff they do, yes, that was already set up, but who they preyed upon was random in a way. Just like that thing who it preyed upon was, I'm assuming it was random because it wasn't there. It was somewhere before that 6 months happened. It was somewhere else. But like I said, I think they're different movies. I think there are similarities in certain ways, but I think for sure he takes you down genres that you are familiar with, and he averts your expectations of them. And like I said, that could be good or bad depending on how you feel about the movie. And it also depends on your intentions when you go to a movie. Do you want to get what you expect, or are you open to something bigger or a different direction than what you planned on going to? Now, most people, if they buy something, they kind of want to get what they buy. But then that's not necessarily people who love movies necessarily. They might just like a certain type. You got people who don't cross genres. They'd be like I can't stand superhero movies or something, or I only like sports movies or something like that. And they don't really deviate. Like, I like everything. You like everything. So if something is presented to me and it seems to kind of cross lines a little bit, like it's rock, but it's not like hard rock. It might be alternative. So it might be a little soulful, but it has that rock element. I'm still good with that. I'm not like, you messed up my rock and roll. You don't have organs in rock and roll. It's like, I wouldn't be offended by it. Like, like it's a type of rock, So, Coldplay would be considered kind of rock. It's different than AC/DC, and it's different than Maroon 5, even though that's kind of a rock. It's alternative rock. And, Counting Crows, I love them, but that's not hard rock. It's all these different kind of rocks. But somebody who likes straight up rock, like 80s rock, they ain't trying to listen to no Counting Crows. But I would like both. So his movies kind of cross genres in a way. And depending on your tolerance level of how you like your movies, it's going to dictate kind of your feelings towards them.
I haven't read reviews for Nope to see what they said about that movie, but I'm curious where that falls under in terms of were people audiences feeling like that movie, the physics of that movie, the laws and rules of that movie were hokey, or did they think that was good enough for them, or did they want more? Like me, I wanted more like an explanation on stuff. But now after talking to you more about the movie, I'm seeing it in a different light now.
Okay, so I did the review of Nope on my other podcast, the Movie Bench Quarterbacking Podcast, and I went over some theories and stuff that I had about the movie, about what it really meant. And since that recording and talking with you, I've thought of another one that I'm going to present to you. Okay, so the whole thing went down with Jupe. He called the sky shark, the creature, watchers or something like that, right? I think it's called the viewers or the watchers.
Yes.
Okay. He had an interpretation of aliens. And you knew what that interpretation was because he had costumes made like it, and he had the little stuffy dolls that was in his display for when he was going to do his, alien show. And so I had mentioned before that the design of the face of the aliens that he designed, that his kids wore the mask of and the stuffy animals look like, look like movie roll film cameras, like the canisters that, that sits up on the camera, and it got like the outside of it, and you got the little holes that, the spools, the film that's inside. His design for the aliens that he made up look like movie cameras, like the cameras they would use on the set of the filming of his TV show that he was on. And like I said, I thought it was interesting that he also called the aliens the viewer, that creature thing that was in the sky, called it the viewers. That's what he called it, something like that. And so when I was thinking about it, we start off the movie inside what we now know is the creature, right? So we start off in jean jacket, and you can't tell what's going on. You see this, this texture that we find out later on is part of this ship, is part of this creature. And we see this texture and it's moving, and we're kind of zooming in closer and closer and closer. And then we see a picture of that first quote unquote movie of a black jockey on a horse. And that's how the movie starts. So we start within that creature. And so it made me kind of think, after kind of thinking about it too, like, what if we are the creature? Could we start off inside the creature? What if we're the creature? We're the quote unquote viewer, and we're watching all these different spectacles, and we as a creature that's the same as Hollywood and fame and success is sucking people in. People can't help but look into it, looking and going for it. We're sucking them up, chewing them up, and spitting them out when we're done. And we are that creature. Is a metaphor for us as the viewers, or Hollywood, or the viewer of spectacle, because we started inside that thing. So what if everything we saw was kind of like, it's from the perspective of us being the viewers, and us, not appreciating boundaries, and things are just play toys to us and things like that, and we don't see it for what it really is. And how, like, that success, that spectacle, that, wanting to be in the limelight is the stuff that's, like I said, people wanting it for the wrong reasons, getting sucked up by it, chewed up and spit out when it's done with you. Like they say Hollywood does people, or they say fame does people. What if it's a metaphor for fame and Hollywood?
That's a very plausible theory, and I think it works because all you have to do is, if you go back and watch the movie, you remember OJ, right?
Yeah.
OJ doesn't want anything to do with like fame, and you see that at the commercial thing. You mentioned how he's reluctant to kind of talk. I think he just wants to do his job with horses, and so he wants nothing to do with fame. He just wants to do what he needs to do. Yeah. And if you look at that and look at his reaction when he starts suspecting something is wrong in the sky, he's apprehensive. So that would fit your theory, because he's someone that doesn't want anything to do with fame. So if the creature is a metaphor for the Hollywood, or the getting sucked in by fame, eaten up and spit out, basically being used, then that makes sense for him to be apprehensive. Look at Juke and the few people that are his audience when they're preparing. They're all like, even the woman who got beaten up by the chimpanzee, you would thought she would have learned something, but apparently not. Right. They're all like, so none of them are scared. Like, they're all like excited to like, that's an interesting theory. Now I'm curious to see what the sister's initial reaction to, meaning, like, I don't know where the sister stands. She seems like, with all that side hustles, but I don't know if that's necessarily her wanting fame, other than just wanting a get-rich scheme. She might not necessarily want the fame. She might just want whatever it takes to get her money fast. That does not necessarily have anything to do with fame. It could just be a byproduct. So I would have to see it again to see, because it falls in line with how OJ reacts for fame, versus Juke and the rest of the crowd, who are so awed by the spectacle, they don't even realize or even think about the danger. None of them are scared at all. Or have kind of interpreted. This is like the weirdest thing, where the fact of the spectacle in any real situation, there would have to be some semblance of nervousness. Even if you remember that movie, Independence birthday with the idiots that were on the roof. They were partying because they wanted to party with the aliens.
Right.
There was the one moment, really, really quick, and maybe I misread it, where the friend, remember the one that ended up going, what's her name? The one of the main characters told her, don't go to the thing, but she went anyways, right? That's her, right? The white girl went anyway. That one moment where the light is about to blast them, the look on her face, there's like a momentary thing of fear that I didn't see at all with any of the audience in Jupiter. They were just all like awed and waiting for something great to happen throughout the whole experience prior. So yeah, I think that's a plausible theory that can work. My only question is how the sister fits into that. Does she fit into that theory?
I think if she didn't have her brother, then she probably would have. He kind of set the tone of the situation, and either you could listen to it or not listen to it. Just like that, the guy Antler Holt, he got the shot he needed, but he wanted the shot.
Yeah.
He wanted more. He had fame in his hand, but he wanted more.
Yes, and that's where his downfall was, because he was trying to push beyond, versus OJ just wants to do the absolute, just the necessary thing, not go beyond what you need to do, because I guess you could say like kind of a grudging, cautious respect for the dangers of fame.
Yeah, because you got the, he probably has like a understanding, because you do have some actors and stuff that it's just like they're in Hollywood, but not of Hollywood. Like Dave Chappelle. He's a billionaire, but he lives on a farm. You have Keanu Reeves. He's a big movie star, but he rides the bus and lets people sit in his seat. I think certain people have certain kind of perspectives of it. Then you got the other end of like Johnny Depp, that he's just all Hollywood. Now he's, British. Madonna, she's from New York. Now she's British. So it's just like, you see some people get lost in it, and you see some people, they still themselves and just kind of humble. Like Denzel Washington. He seemed like a normal dude. Like he knows it's over there, but he doesn't live that way because he knows the cost of it. So I don't know. Not that I know these people, but I'm just saying from what we see of them, and there's levels to it, but it's not necessarily not dealing with things, but it's like having a healthy respect. And it's always about respect in this movie, about respecting boundaries. And when you go too far, then you kind of get the kickback. But as long as you keep your balance, don't look it in the eye. Go by the rules. Don't just walk behind the horse. No sudden moves. If the monkey kind of loses it, back away from it. Don't confront it. It's pissed right now. People even know to leave their women alone when their woman is mad at them. They know. The guy knows not to go into the room. You know what I mean? Even, or the kids, they know their parents upset. They know not to go in there asking for nothing when their parents upset. It's reading the room. It's reading the room. You will live if you read the room. If you don't, and you just worry about what you get out of it, you will be in danger walking up on something that is not asking for you at that time.
Yes. But again, Juke just lucked into surviving. He didn't do anything that
he wanted his fame back. He wanted that attention back. He was still looking for another show. Like I said, his wife was trying to work on a deal with a new show that he had. He's definitely holding on to his old past fame, with the old show, when he's trying to do this. And now he's doing a thing where he's trying to, do a creature show, and he's trying to get on a reality TV show and all this kind of stuff. Like,
well, yeah, because he thinks he's enchanted, where he's untouchable.
And he's still troubled by the whole thing, because his wife had tried to calm him down. She was massaging his fingers and stuff because he was getting worked up and lost in the thought of the whole situation that happened to him. And even when he was kind of like talking about the situation, he was all talking about the SNL skit versus what really happened. And he thought it was funny. Like, that's funny? That's not funny. You said people get mauled and killed. SNL couldn't make that funny. But he saw it as like, like he thought, he almost seemed like felt like he was lucky to be a part of such a big spectacle, because then that way he'll always be associated with something. Even if it's good, bad, or indifferent, his name will be spoken in connection with something that people will never forget, even though they're not going to forget because of a bad reason. Nope.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that we discussed this, because now I have a totally different perspective on this movie. I like it a lot better than before we had the discussion, for sure.
Well, I'd love to hear what you think if you see it again. I definitely want to see it again. I thought it was fun. I really wanted to talk to you about it for sure because I wanted to hear your insight, especially as a writer and also somebody just a movie goer and just how you see stuff. Like I said, I think a lot of stuff we see in the same way, even though we do have different takes on things. But I always like to hear your perspective.
And no, I'm glad though because I'm sometimes like I could be obtuse. Like I'm glad that I talked to you about it because again, there's sometimes like I can get stuck in a thing where when I watch this movie, not that I stopped being interested, but sometimes when I get put off by certain parts of a movie, I tend to stop paying attention. So there are like little details that I ended up missing or not remembering until you brought it up. Like the thing with the shoe, like I totally like, because I was so concerned about that the movie wasn't fulfilling what I wanted, that I kind of was shutting down a little bit so I missed these little details. And I'm glad I talked to you about it because when that happens to me, I tend to miss details because I shut myself off sometimes. So, but I talked to you about it.
Yeah. We're all guilty of that at times. Like I said, I went through that with the Us movie just because I was fighting what I thought it was supposed to be versus, like I said, the logic when I should have just listened to the rules that was given to me. But that's the good part about loving movies, and that's the bad part about loving movies. You know, you're trying to be open, but you also can't unknow and unthink what you think about stuff. You see a lot of stuff, and you can't help but digging that Rolodex when you're watching. You know, you can't help by, that reminds me of this, that reminds me of that, or I know if this happened, that means this. And so when you get a new formula or a new thing kind of happening, it's kind of hard to snap out of what you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I changed my mind. I like this movie. It was a good movie. It sounds like such a cop out, but you know,
no.
I was on the verge. I was on the verge of. I was, like I said, I didn't hate it. I was disappointed by it. I wanted certain things to be fulfilled that I felt like it was short. But now that we discussed it, I look at the movie in a totally different way now. And I like the idea that the trailer was deceptive. That makes the movie even more enjoyable for me in that sense.
Yeah, because like I said, it had to be hard to do that trailer and to keep all that stuff in there like that. That, like I said, it was a transformer, and I was very impressed by that. But yeah, man, you started your new podcast. I'm so excited about that. Let the folks know what's going on with it.
Yeah, so the name of my podcast is IJO, which stands for In Joselito's Opinion. The title is IJO Film and TV Reviews. So basically, it's similar to your podcast where I'll talk about movies or TV shows. And so I did my first episode, rough, but I finally got it done, about Netflix The Sandman. So you can listen on Spotify. So you get a chance, check it out. I only did the first episode, but I'm hoping to have another couple episodes very soon.
Right on. I'm looking forward to it. I happened to check out the first episode and I really dug it. As always, I love your insight and perspective and the connections to other interpretations that's been brought to screen as well, and how they kind of connect, and your comparison between the actual graphic novel and the show and stuff. So you did a great job of, going through that journey. So
thanks. I'll definitely invite you. Once I get a few episodes into the podcast, I'll send an invite if, with something, if we want to review together, just like I, go on your podcast. I'll definitely invite you. Once I get some episodes in there, then I'll reach out to you and then we can, have a review.
Right on. I look forward to it, man. Once again, congratulations to you. Look forward to checking out your new episodes. Okay, so that's been Jay and Joselito talking about the movie Nope. Until next time, peace.
Peace. Take care.
Hey, it's Jay. If you enjoyed my conversation with Joselito, check out our conversations where we talked about the movie The Norseman, Everything Everywhere All at Once, as well as the latest Dune movie. Thanks for listening. Until next time, peace. Thanks for listening, and please like and subscribe.
Be sure to check out past and future episodes of this show, along with my other shows entitled the Movie Bench Quarterbacking Podcast and the J and Podcast, available now on all streaming platforms. Until next time, peace.